I'll do that when we do a roll call.
All right, you're live.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome. I am Chair Sage Turner, and I'd like to welcome you to the May 17th Housing and Community Development Committee meeting. All council members and staff are participating virtually today. For those of you out there with us, welcome. To help our audience follow along, I'll be stating each section of the agenda aloud as we progress. We're streaming live on our virtual engagement. That's accessible through the Virtual Engagement Hub link on the front page of our city website. You also have an option to call in and listen by phone. That number is 855-925-2801. You'll be prompted to enter a code, and that code is 9791. For today's meeting, we also have the option for people to call in and comment live during the meeting. To do that, you will use the same number. Again, it's 855-925-2801 and meeting code 9791. Your phone will be muted and you will hear the meeting live. At this point, you will hear for more options, please press star. Pressing star 3 will allow callers to continue to listen live and then join a speaker queue. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to speak. As a general reminder, please stay on mute unless you have something to speak or question. And if you are not participating in the agenda item, you can stay off camera. With that, I will begin a roll call. Council and staff, as I call your name, please say a quick hello. Vice Mayor Shanika Smith.
Hello.
You briefly froze there, just a heads up. Councilwoman Antoinette Mosley.
Good morning.
City Manager Deborah Campbell.
Hello.
Community and Economic Development Director Nikki Reed.
Good morning.
Urban Planner Sasha Bertinsky.
Good morning.
And Community Development Manager Jonathan Jones. And we'd like to say a congratulations to Jonathan for taking this position. He had been filling it as an interim for 6 months, and we are sure glad to have you, and congratulations.
Thank you very
much. Maybe
much.
say a quick. All right. So we're going to start the agenda. And the first thing up is item number 1, the approval of minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review the action minutes? Any questions, concerns, or changes? And if not, may I get a motion?
I move to approve the minutes as presented.
I think Shanika's trying. I'll go ahead and second. And I'll do a roll call vote. Vice Mayor Smith? Maybe turn your video off and just try and do the sound.
Aye.
Great. Councilwoman Mosley?
Aye.
Yes, we did hear that. And myself, Sage Turner, aye. So the minutes have passed and been approved. We're going to move on to item number 2, which is our fiscal year 22-23 CDBG annual action plan and CDBG policy update. That's Community Development Block Grants policy update. We have a reallocation of CDBG awards and an update to our action plan, and we have Jonathan Jones here to walk us through it. Welcome, Jonathan.
Thank you. Good morning. So I wanted to share with you the updates to our CDBG funding recommendations. If you recall, back at the end of March, this committee reviewed the applications and staff recommendations of funding. But at the time, we did not have the final CDBG or home investment allocations for the city. There were some delays in that process at the federal level, so that information has finally been released as recent as Friday afternoon. So the information provided here is hot off the presses. For the CDBG program, the final allocation amount was a little over $1 million, $1,028,896 to be exact. That happens to be about 17,000 more than our original estimate that staff was working with back in March. So we want to be able to account for that in the final action plan that we need to submit to HUD. As many have heard, the Trinity Place Youth Shelter is in the process, or has been in the process of closing down, and they notified the city in April that they would not be able to continue with their CDBG allocation. So that was originally a $32,000 public service award that we will also need to account for. So in the staff report provided, we sort of outlined that situation, but also provided a couple of recommendations. And I can go ahead and share my screen with the CDBG spreadsheet, and we can take a look at where staff would recommend that we put that money in this process. Give me just a moment. And can everybody see that? Is it coming through? It's about as zoomed in as I can get, as we often have with these charts. So what we've done on this recommendation, up to the right-hand side, we've listed the original allocation amounts, the original estimates, and the final totals under the estimated funding, but also included two new columns, G and H, in our spreadsheet, one for the change that we would suggest in these allocations and the final award. So reducing the Caring for Children award by $32,000 and redistributing it amongst the other public services. So if you recall, there is a cap on the amount that we can award for public services. So there's a 15% cap on that. And so taking the 32,000 and the additional 17 from the final allocation, we would increase the public service requests for the agencies, On Track, Helpmate, and Spark Foundation. Sort of raising all of those awards would bring them to their full request, and then the remainder would be distributed between Pisgah Legal and Homeward Bound for homelessness prevention and the AHOPE coordinated entry process. Along with that additional 17,000, we would be able to increase the CDBG admin. So that would be an additional 3,500 approximately for the administration of the program conducted by the city. Which would leave us with approximately $11,000 that could be allocated to non-public services. Given that all of our previous awards have already been fully funded, and with the Stephen Slee project that we included last time already being over what was originally estimated for that request through the ARPA process, the staff recommendation would be that we put the $11,528 in a CDBG contingency to be reallocated at a future time. Given that this is a relatively small amount, we don't think that would have a significant impact on things like our timeliness test. We are also been in contact with other CDBG grantees who are returning funds, who have funds that they are aware are going to be spent down in the coming months. So the target would be to combine those as part of a second round allocation, maybe in the fall or some other process to find a good home in a project for those funds. So with that, those would be the staff recommendations for reallocating those funds. Also included in the staff report was continuing to maintain the same funding for the Stephen Slee project, but also reformatting our submission of the action plan. Initially, staff attempted to take all of the funding listed in the estimated funding chart from old 2016-17 funds plus contingency funds from the previous 2 years and combine those into an amendment to our current action plan to help get the Stephen Slee project started as soon as possible. Given the delays in the timing of those allocations, talking to our HUD field rep, staff's recommendation is, instead of trying to roll those older funds into our current action plan is just to combine all of that as one amendment to the upcoming program year for 22-23. So a little bit of a format change in how we would move those funds, but it would mean that we submit the action plan for the coming year and then make amendments to those previous years so that all of that money can be used under one program year. So I think that covers the staff recommendations, and be glad to take questions or if there are any suggestions for the funding allocations.
Councilwoman, do you have any questions or comments for Jonathan and staff?
I wanted to ask staff a question about the eligibility of Partners Unlimited for the $32,000 that was returned by Trinity Place. When I read through the old information about around the CDBG request, they had a couple questions for Partners Unlimited, but still found that they were eligible to apply. Is there any reason why, this organization would not be positioned for the $30,000 that they requested this time around, since Trinity Place is returning their funding?
And even the 11th that remains. Great question. Go ahead.
So the 11,000 would not be usable for public services, because even with what is on the chart now under the public services, we have reached our public service cap of 15%. As far as the other three projects in the public service category, including Partners Unlimited, staff have really tried to focus on investing the CDBG funds in programs that were the highest scoring in our application process, looking at strong partners who have a proven history of being able to use CDBG funds in a timely fashion on clearly eligible projects. I know there were some questions in the Partners Unlimited request that had to do with eligibility of some of the students that they're assisting and making sure that they are within the income categories that CDBG requires. So at this point, really staff focused on the previous awards and simply increasing those investments. Really the idea being that we invest more in fewer partners and make some really strong programs.
Okay, and in the past, we use a lot of our, some of our contingency for capacity building. In this situation, could some of the activities that we had questions about pertaining to Partners Unlimited be capacity building, a capacity building opportunity for Partners Unlimited? And because and the reason why I'm saying this and kind of pushing this issue is, number one, because Trinity Place is a youth-focused service. And I would rather, I would like to see Partners Unlimited funded this go around. It seems like two different CDBG funding cycles. We've encouraged them to just hold off from CDBG funding and wait on our strategic partnership fund. But that's been delayed a couple of years now. And I found it like a disservice to the population that Partners Unlimited is serving. They're very hard to reach youth population. And I would like to, with this new configuration, I would like to see Partners Unlimited funded in total of $30,000.
And I'd support that.
So, I mean, I can get behind this as well. I guess I'm just curious what that means for staff to do. Do you need to go back and look at some of these things that Vice Mayor Smith is referring to that may be applicable, may not be? Is there some portion? And I guess what's happening here today is we're making a recommendation to council to review and vote on this collectively. So the three of us can put forth a recommendation with this amendment, but there would be time for staff to, discuss and evolve before it got to council. Jonathan,
Because I'm
any
reading
thoughts on
some
that?
of the concerns with board governance. There was one question whether the director of the program actually sat on the board, and I think they answered that question saying no. Couple other things that concerns that were presented, and I think they answered the question. I think it comes that just to me, from what I'm reading, it comes down to how he verifies the income of his clients and other client eligibility questions. I mean, that to me, that just seems like some fine tuning, but still a viable program.
Well, I will say one of the challenges when we look at both CDBG and home is some of those fine details are the hallmarks of our federal programs and our compliance responsibilities. So as we start to discuss supporting programs that also need capacity building, there is a chance that we are continuing to support struggling programs with some of our most restrictive funding. So for strategic partnership funds and some of those local dollars, we have the flexibility to design programs and select our partners that may need that additional capacity building. It's a challenge when it comes to CDBG and home because we could later end up having to return funds if we don't meet all of HUD's expectations and requirements. So when staff are reviewing these, we are looking for partners who we are sure, based on their applications and based on their past performance, can meet those expectations rather than projects that we're openly asking the question, do they need additional capacity support?
I wonder if that means some review could lead us to like concrete what would have to be different. I mean, if it's board members, I'm looking at the application which came to us for those of you listening at home on it was a March meeting, and it looks like, just so folks can follow along, this project is they have a couple sentences that is, what is their project? And this project says it's a dropout prevention support program for high school and middle school at-risk youth who have been suspended from their homeschool. This program provides opportunity for the youth to continue their academics and keep them out of the streets during the day within a structured environment where learning continues and supplemental support is provided Monday through Thursday. And they coordinate with other groups. So just a little context for those of you listening at home. It sounds like what I hear is support for looking at this again. And what is it that the staff are concerned about? Because compliance and, let's not forget that we are also understaffed and still hiring for some in this department as well. So, asking staff to take on more is one thing, but also just getting more clarity on what that would look like or could look like would help, I think. And maybe we could get that together before it gets to council. Any other questions or comments from other councilwomen, or if not, there is a motion and you're welcome to amend it and make one.
I'll read through the motion. My proposal still stands to fund Partners Unlimited with the use of the $32,000 that was returned by Trinity Place. So I recommend excuse me?
Okay, so the whole 32,000.
Well, they only requested 30.
Oh, right. Okay.
So I recommend to revise the funding allocation to the city for the submission of the fiscal year 22-23 annual action plan for HUD approval with amendments to the fiscal year 16-17, fiscal year 2020-21, fiscal year 2021-22 action plans, transferring the prior year's funds to the fiscal year 2022 through 2023 action plan, authorizing the city manager to sign all necessary documents to this effect. And I guess I'll add that the $32,000 returned by Trinity Place be reallocated to cover Partners Unlimited request of $30,000, and that be added to the action plan as well.
I'll second.
Great. Any other discussion? Okay, I'm going to move to a roll call vote. Vice Mayor Smith,
Aye.
Councilwoman Mosley,
Aye.
myself, Sage Turner, aye. And Vice Mayor Smith, thank you for remembering this important group and bringing this to our attention. Those of you listening, go ahead.
For a quick point of clarification, we would then proportionally distribute the remainder, the other 2,000 to the other projects, or is there?
It sounds like she left the motion vague enough for you all to suggest how that could finish. So it was to reallocate 30,000 of the 32,000 to this particular group. And then I assume when you get to council, you can have a suggested reallocation of the other two.
Okay.
Sound good? Okay. Thank you, everyone. That concludes item number 2 on our agenda. And we're going to move on to item number 3, which is a land use incentive grant, commonly known as LUIG, request for the Reed Creek Greenway Plaza. We have 12 units at 421 Broadway Street, and I believe we have Sasha Vertinsky with us to present and walk us through.
Yes,
Go ahead, Sasha.
thank you. Thank you. Good morning, Councilwoman. My name is Sasha Vertinsky, and I'm serving as the interim affordable housing officer these days. So I'm presenting this LUIG for 421 Broadway Street. Next, so just a few key takeaways. This application is for 421 Broadway Street. The project's committing 10 units or 20% to be affordable for 30 years at 60% AMI or below, and then additional 5% or 2 units will be affordable for 30 years as well at 80% and below. This is a somewhat difficult site to develop. It does include a brownfield. 2 of the parcels in this project came from the city and came with deed restrictions, but this LUIG is going above and beyond those initial agreements. They're also bringing additional benefits, including rental assistance, solar panels, universal design, and also housing someone from the homeless by name list. And from their point chart, they qualify for 21 years of taxes to be paid back. Next. So the project, you could go ahead next, Jenna. So the project encompasses 1.53 acres bound by Broadway and Cobble Street. There are 3 buildings as a part of this project. It is a conditional zoning that is going to be at City Council on May 24th. So this LUIG is really only covering the 49-unit apartment building. We are not pledging taxes back for any other parts of the project, just the residential piece. And so housing does represent 100% of all the square footage. So it is just east of the Reed Creek Greenway, and the residential portion of the site is about 0.4 of an acre. Next. So this is the site plan. You'll see the larger building on the right. Building A is the residential building. Next. So they're proposing 10 studios to all be affordable. The rest of the mix is 35 one-bedroom units and 4 two-bedroom units. Next. And these are some exterior renderings of that residential building. Next. And this is really still going back to those key takeaways. Right now, the developer have a cost estimate of about $9 million, and that is a construction cost. I think likely the taxable value is going to be much lower, but we don't have an exact estimate for that at this point. So it gives me some comfort to know that what we're talking about would be maximum numbers, we believe. Next. So this is just a summary of how they get to 105 points. Their location, brownfield redevelopment, energy efficiency, universal design, the rental assistance, all of those pieces. Next. So currently, they pay about $1,050 for the land. under that residential building right now every year. So they would continue to pay that into the future. Using that $9 million construction slash cost estimate, the property tax would be about close to $37,000 a year. We subtract out that $1,000 for the land that's already being paid, and so we get to about $35,850 for 21 years. So the total grant would be $750,000. And so the subsidy comes out to be about close to $63,000 per unit, which is within kind of our range of our adopted policy. And then after the final year, they would start paying the full tax amount, or we would not be paying back their taxes, really. Next. This is just a piece of their application that it's somewhat walkable. This project will help with the walkability with sidewalks. It's interesting that we actually don't have a transit line on Broadway right now. The transit lines are on Merriman and Montford. And this project is within a half mile of both of those transit lines. Next. So we're recommending an approval. Motion to recommend that City Council approve this LUIG application. It will be going to the Finance Committee next week, and then City Council with this conditional zoning hearing as well at the same time. And that concludes my presentation. Damie Cisse and I believe Derek Allen are both here. If you have any questions for them, and I can answer any questions as well.
Thank you, Sasha, and thank you for filling in as our interim housing manager specialist. Any questions for Sasha or staff? I remember this deal's formative years. It's probably been 6 or 7 years ago. So it's nice to see it coming along. I don't have any concerns. I'm appreciative.
I have a motion.
Okay.
I have a motion when you're ready.
Sure. I just wanted to say I appreciate the intent around using someone off the named unhoused list. I think that's I haven't seen that before, and I thought it was very thoughtful. So go ahead, Vice Mayor, if you're ready.
Well, I'm happy to make the motion if she's.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was on mute.
Okay.
I mean, sorry,
No worries. Go ahead.
I'm in a new location and trying to navigate two screens here. I move to recommend that City Council approve the land use incentive grant application for Reed Creek Greenway Plaza at 421 Broadway Street.
I'll second.
Great. Any further discussion? All right. I'm going to do a roll call vote. Vice Mayor Smith.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mosley.
Aye.
Myself, Sage Turner. Aye. All right. The LUIG request will move to Finance Committee and then to Council. Thank you, Sasha and staff. And that concludes item number 3 on our agenda. We do have an item number 4 for public comment. I don't believe we had any previous public comment. Do we have any callers on the line?
We do have callers on the line. I'll let you know. Right now there's just one, but people might be joining right now. So I'll let you know when we get to the last caller.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and let the first caller go.
Caller ending in 3781. Your line is open.
Shanika, you may need to mute your second screen.
That's not me.
Oh, go ahead, caller.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, everybody. This is Barry Bialik. I'm the chair of the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee, and I just wanted to kind of share some information. As you recall, I was at your meeting last time, and one of those discussions was talked about how we have a better link of communication between AHAC and HED. And again, I just have to. We after our meeting created an action item where we came up with an item that we felt should be discussed at HCD about affordable housing. It did not make it on this agenda, and as a leader and as a committee chair, I feel it's my obligation to make sure this gets heard, even though it was chosen not to be placed on this agenda. So I'm going to read the motion that AHAC passed, which is AHAC supports exploring shorter length funding commitments for smaller projects. And our logic in this is we were asking for guidance to see if this is something that council is interested in before we pursue it any further. We have lots of items that have been on our agenda for months, and we've been looking for direction from you and from city management, so we're not spinning our wheels. So I just wanted to make sure that that gets heard. I also want to note that, I read through your minutes and kind of our conversation, which we thought was a really important conversation. Was reduced pretty much in the minutes. All it says was Affordable Housing Advisory Board held discussion. That's kind of the extent of our conversation that made it to your minutes. So I just need to really express my dissatisfaction with that. It was discussed in the meeting, this idea of AHAC and HCD, kind of this parent-child relationship. And the way it feels and the way I view and many others seem to view this whole boards and commissions thing, the changes that are being proposed is that you're basically saying your children are bad and you're trying to come up with a new way how to handle your children. But I think the reality is we have parents who aren't listening to us. We have city council who we definitely feel does not value transparency and does not view affordable housing as a priority. And I feel that way about city management as well. I feel city management is not encouraging transparency, is not doing the work to create the better links of communication, and instead is looking for ways to quiet the public. And I find that very frustrating. So again, I just, as chair of a committee and as a leader, I'm asking you all to be better leaders and to listen to your people. Affordable housing, we view definitely as one of the #1 priorities facing our city. And you have, you have many boards and commissions that are very passionate about what they do, and you have some of the most experts in the field on them. And we're asking you to come up with better ways to listen to us.
3 minutes.
Okay. Well, again, I appreciate your time and look forward to this continuing conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Did we have anyone else in the queue?
That was our only caller.
Okay, thank you. Procedurally, public comment is a statement. We're not necessarily a question or something that we respond to. I cringed a little bit when I heard that it didn't seem like to this particular caller that council or staff prioritize or care about affordable housing. I feel like we work on it day in and day out. Eat, live, sleep, and dream affordable housing. But perhaps, with the pandemic and all that is going on in the community, information isn't out there, or there could be more that could be learned. It's unfortunate. And I know with the boards and commissions process being under review and the task force of sorts being assembled, or the advisory committee to that being assembled, perhaps we'll hear more feedback like this. And that's what we want, right? We wanted to put it out to say, hey, this is what we think is happening. We're hearing from you that it's not working well for committee members in some cases. We're hearing that it's not working for staff well in some cases, and that we're not getting as much done as we could be, or it could be better. And that's the point of this, right? To look into boards and commissions and how could it be better and function better. So, we'll take the good critique, we'll take the bad critique, and roll it into the planning. I will say that if you dug in a little bit at council work and recent work sessions and budget things, you'd find that we've spent tens of millions of dollars on housing recently. We're doing all types of initiatives, from missing middle housing studies to Code Purple funding we've never done, to emergency sheltering. So there's a lot, and perhaps we could be summarizing that better for the community in some capacity. But I wanted to share that after that public comment. And we, of course, appreciate you, Mr. Bialik, for chairing and working with affordable housing for as long as you have. I believe it's been a number of years. Any other comments or thoughts?
Chair Turner, we did have one other person join the speaker queue, right?
As soon as I said that. Okay.
Yeah. I will bring them on now.
Okay, let's let it go ahead.
Caller ending in 3548, your line is open.
Thank you. This is Greg Bourne with Children First Community Schools, Montgomery County. Thanks for the time and your work on housing. I just wanted to ask a question about the Reed Creek project that was requesting LUIG funds. The presentation said that it would be affordable to individuals and families at the income levels, but then in the overview, it sounds like it's the affordable units are just studio or one bedroom. And so as y'all have heard me say before, we really are encouraging the city to make sure that there's more housing that families with children can live in, to having more than just a bedroom or a studio apartment. I'm definitely excited about the affordability benchmarks, but just in terms of the presentation, it says individuals and families, and I just want to clarify whether that's really the case for this project, families with children. But thank you for your work, and also highlight, if you haven't had a chance to see the President Biden's announcement yesterday on some things the administration is going to do to try to support some additional housing production and affordability. That's some exciting resources in there that may help with leveraging some additional dollars for city efforts and going forward. And thanks again for your time today.
Great information. Thank you, caller. Did anyone else call in?
That's it.
Okay.
I did have something I wanted to mention to you as chair. Our strategic partnership fund process is scheduled for the end of the summer. I feel that we need to figure out a way to expedite that and hear it as soon as possible and be ready to receive those applications ahead of the school year. I believe we've put off for a very long time so that we can figure out benchmarking and metrics and, which department is going to better serve this educational pursuit. I feel like we're doing a disservice to our community members and those who held off from applying for CDBG, awaiting strategic partnership funding. If I'm not mistaken, we're knocking on 4 years or 5 years since we've held that grant application for community members pertaining to the closing of the achievement gap. So getting ready for this new school year, I would like to hear where we are next month and prepare to take applications from the community by July.
Interesting. And Vice Mayor had brought this up for a future agenda item. I apologize. I hadn't alerted staff to that just yet. I agree. And, we just saw, just as a side thought, we just saw with the ARPA new language that some applicants didn't qualify. The pods come to mind. And that comes to mind with this application process. There's a lot of great organizations out there. Staff, where are you at with this timing? Are you, since we have Sasha as interim, is it by chance able to speed up, or any response to Vice Mayor's concern?
I can provide some information. So Nikki Reed, the Community Economic Development Department, in trying to look at the workload and the work plan for staff, we have tasked our Equitable Economic Development Division to manage the strategic partnership funds. I think what we've seen over the years is putting that administrative burden solely on the Community Development Division has just caused constraints with our staff capacity. So just trying to address that by empowering our Equitable Economic Development Division, which includes our Economic Development Specialist, includes our CALA program manager as well as our Business Inclusion Office. So really having that initiative be led by that cohort is something that we have transitioned and are working on that transition actively. So that has been just some of the behind the curtains activities that have been happening. We have been working on doing check-ins just to understand the history of that program, because yes, as we have wanted to realign the strategy to be within the Equitable Economic Development Division, we want to really understand the history so that we're starting from a foundation of understanding with what we are hoping to accomplish with those funds. So that work is in process, and we do hope that we're able to kickstart that program in the next fiscal year to meet the needs of our community. I think I probably need to circle back with my team to understand really what update that we can provide at the next HCD and be ready to share that as we move forward.
Okay. I hear what you're saying, but, community can't wait. And this topic is, we committed ourselves to this topic just because of the numbers, and the gap was so horrible. applicants, community opportunities community groups have put off for years and years. Like I said before, about 5 years, waiting for us to figure it out. Equity inclusion was at the table at one point so that a lot of those questions can be answered. And each year we get a different reason why we're not ready to launch. So whatever we need to do and whatever cross-departmental help we need in order to launch this fund, we need to get it started because we made a commitment and we're 5 years short on that commitment.
Well, I'm happy to be at the helm now and be ready to meet that concern. So absolutely, we'll make it a priority.
Yeah, that's a lot of years. I didn't realize it had been that long. Thank you, Vice Mayor Smith. So I wanted to say a couple things because I know just with the first public comment, I shared a couple things, but my point was that maybe we could be doing better to share some of the things we're doing so that folks don't feel like we're not doing anything. And so I'm just I jotted down some lists. So we're a little early today. I'm going to take about 2 minutes and just say some things because I know the media might be watching right now. And this is one more avenue for people to learn some of the things we're doing. You know, we just had an ARPA work session at our last week. I mean, we allocated $1 million for Pisgah Legal to increase their capacity and deploy more rent protection programs and eviction protection programs. We gave, I think it was over $8 million to emergency house people, whether it be in our own civic center or hotels throughout the community during the pandemic, and then moved, I think, dozens and dozens of them into secured permanent housing and helped them get IDs and all of these things just to make it work. We gave $2 million to Helpmate to rebuild or to build a new domestic violence shelter. We gave $600,000 to Habitat for Humanity to invest in more home ownership programs and programs that reinvest, so it wasn't just a one-time infusion. Like I said, $85,000 being budgeted for a missing middle study, something we've needed for so long. This council is looking at utilizing things like the community benefits table we assigned to hotels for potentially large housing projects like conditionally zoned housing projects to help expedite that and remove some of the difficulties in getting those projects forward. We gave money to nonprofit Thrive Asheville, who's going to do a housing, almost like an inequity study, like how are our programs aligning with the folks that we are trying to help in the community. They're also going to expand their LTP program with it, which is the landlord-tenant partnership, which provides gap funding between what a voucher will give you and what the market rate rent is, so that we can decentralize folks from poverty areas and move them into market rate units and better zip codes for better outcomes. We've been doing so many LUIG applications, like the first LUIG product opened doors last year. It was the 360 Hilliard, and now we have so many Luigi's in queue, which is great that we're building a pipeline of affordability, but we're doing so well we now need to reevaluate the program to see if it's impacting the targeted AMIs we want. So we're studying that as well. I believe in this budget we're adding another homelessness specialist. We're partnering with the county on Diva Review to build new units, 85 new units so we don't displace anybody, and that whole development is up for redevelopment. We used land. I mean, I'm just rattling off things. There are so many things that we're doing, and I guess I just got a little defensive, but good work, staff and everyone that is working on this. And I think that's all for today, and we can adjourn unless anyone else has any more comments. Sorry to go on a little tangent, but thank you everyone and have a great day. We are adjourned.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.